When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
The 2004 remake of the zombie classic Dawn of the Dead was a surprise hit that took some inspiration from 28 Days Later, which in and of itself brought the zombie genre back to life. This particular take on the Romero classic was Zack Snyder's directorial debut, and it managed to pull in $102.3 million worldwide on a budget of only $26 million. Today, it is often viewed as a classic in its own right. Now, if you haven't seen it and want to avoid spoilers, now's your chance to pause this video and watch it yourself. That being said, the movie itself follows in the footsteps of its predecessor by focusing on a cast of characters that end up surviving in a shopping mall during the zombie apocalypse. These survivors all survived the initial outbreak of this supernatural pathogen, and they all end up stranded at the Crossroads Mall in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Eventually, the survivors opt to make a break for the coastline of Lake Michigan in hopes of finding a safe island offshore. Most of the survivors actually perish on their way to the boat, but what shocked most viewers was the ending of the after credits. Upon reaching the island, our protagonists are seemingly assaulted by an army of the undead, the very minute they make landfall. While their fates aren't confirmed, the evidence left for us paints a truly grim picture. Setting all of that aside, I'd like to analyze whether or not these people could survive or whether or not they were doomed to begin with. In order to do this, let's begin by examining the type of infected they were contending with. The zombies in Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead were abnormally fast sprinters. But unlike the infected in 28 Days Later, these zombies were actually undead. They don't starve, and you actually need to destroy their brains in order to permanently put them down. Because of this, they are as durable as more traditional zombies, in the sense that they will keep chasing you without fear or hesitation, even when missing large segments of their bodies. They're also decently intelligent as far as zombies go, considering that they have rudimentary navigational skills and can hold door hatches open. Some of them are even capable of fucking climbing. We also know that the transmission rate once a person dies of the zombie pathogen is fairly quick. If you had the DVD back in the day like myself, or if you looked for it online, you would see that this movie was accompanied by special or bonus features. The most prominent being the newscast special detailing the fall of the United States from the point of view of a news anchor and a news station. Through this special, we know that the virus's origins are unknown and that it managed to break out in multiple areas around the globe at the same time. Long story short, human civilization falls to this supernatural pathogen. Nowhere is truly safe. So to put it bluntly, this is one of the scariest zombie outbreaks ever showcased in cinema. Our survivors were held up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This is a massive population center, even in the early 2000s. Odds are that there were nearly thousands of undead in the city during the initial outbreak when our survivors headed to the mall for safety. This is somewhat confirmed by Michael when he warns Kenneth, the cop, to not head out to the highway.
Sir, you do not want to go that way.
What's that way?
It's pretty bad.
What this ultimately means is that the group did not have the ability to safely bug out of the city. And the closest safe haven was a closed shopping mall where a handful of security guards were held up. The mall itself was 2 stories, which means it was actually decently safe. If they secured the stairs and elevators, they could live safely on the upper floor. It also came stocked with plenty of food, non-perishables, and water. There was even a backup generator with plenty of fuel. But eventually, without farm supplies and a sustainable source of water and meat, the group would have died there. Whether it be due to starvation, dehydration, or the undead breaking through their fortifications, they were never going to be able to survive in that mall for the long run. I mean, just think about their location. They were up in fucking Wisconsin. The winter wouldn't be a cakewalk. So you could say they technically made the right decision to head for a more sustainable location based on the information available to them. But there was one tiny problem with their decision, or more accurately, several tiny problems. They didn't know if the boat would still be there at the docks. They didn't know if the island existed or whether or not it was safe. They also poorly engineered their chainsaw rails, which led to one of the survivors killing the hot chick by accident. Be that as it may, the undead apocalypse forced them to act in the same manner that a player is forced to move onto undesirable squares in chess. Unfortunately for them, these forced moves were always going to lead to a proverbial checkmate. The outbreak was worldwide. They were stuck in a major population center. The island they looked for was teeming with the undead, and they didn't have the manpower or firepower needed to clear it. By the time their boat reached the island, it was running on fumes and the engine was seemingly burned out. The mall itself was never a long-term solution, despite the fact that they managed to survive there for a month, at least according to Andy's lost tapes. Worst of all, the undead could not starve. They could siege the mall indefinitely. In short, these survivors were cooked from the very beginning. Had they realized this, it probably would have been smarter to just die at the mall from a lack of resources than it would have been to be torn to pieces. As a matter of fact, it may have been smarter to head to the coastline at the very beginning of the outbreak. I mean, sure, they didn't have a key at that point, but if they found a sailboat, they could have made it work. During the onset of this outbreak, the city was not yet totally overrun. Just compare the horde at the beginning of the movie to the horde they faced after departing to the docks. It's literally night and day. But even this more optimal play suffers from the same flaws. The island is not safe, and without guns and ammo from Andy's gun store, they would have never been able to clear the island. Shit, even with guns and ammo, clearing an island of sprinting zombies that can only be killed by headshots is a tall fucking order. But let's just assume they survive at the end of the movie. Let's just assume that they managed to beat back the undead long enough for them to get back on the boat. Let's also assume they lost no one in that exchange with the infected. Where do they go now? There are a few islands in Lake Michigan. Some might be safe. But with literally no food or farming supplies and no survival experts, how would they manage to survive in the long run? They literally have a handful of guns and ammunition. And they only have a cop, a nurse, a mall security guard, and a spoiled teen or college girl. How the fuck are they ever going to make that work? Especially when the winter arrives, where temperatures commonly reach -2 degrees Fahrenheit in January. What if the lake freezes over just enough to allow the undead to migrate towards their safe haven? Even if we assume that the US government is intact somewhere due to COG-CON procedures designed to survive a fucking all-out nuclear war, that doesn't mean that help will be arriving anytime soon. So in conclusion, the cast of characters in Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead were always destined to die. Whether it be in the mall or on an island, these guys and gals were fucking cooked. They were literally neck deep in shit creek with their mouths wide open. And the only true real choice available to them was the dichotomy of choosing between a painless death and a ghastly one. Anyways, if you like this sort of content, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Also hit the notification icon so that you may be notified when I publish a new video. Don't forget that you may also opine anytime if you feel so inclined down in the comment section. I do try my best to respond to as many comments as I can during my free time. Oh, and last but certainly not least, I'd like you to please consider becoming a channel member. It's pretty damn affordable and it allows me to continue to entertain you. With that said, I'm Captain Gold and I hope to see you in my next Gold Standard video.